What about when students have personal problems they want to talk to? They couldn't talk to friends around them. They might be afraid to talk to academic staff, or just people in front of the desk, information desk, for example, SSID. Is there any place for students to go to talk to?
I think that's a very good question, because for anybody from any country, personal issues are something you don't usually want to discuss in public. But I know, my understanding from the little I know of Chinese culture is that in China it's even more important not to discuss personal problems with strangers. That British people will discuss more things with their friends maybe than Chinese people will. And I understand it can be quite a challenge. But I would say that first of all, they can go to SID, or the Student Advice Centre, and ask if they can speak to somebody confidentially. Or people think they can't talk to their tutors about a personal problem, but you can say to your tutor, I've got a personal problem, can I discuss it with you, or can you give me some advice about where to go? Some tutors are very good at helping in confidential personal situations. Some are not so comfortable, but they should be able to tell you who you can talk to. There's also the University Counselling Service. Now, the counselling service is run by professional therapists. What would you call that in China? These people, I know we've talked about this. Are they psychologists or therapists? What would you say or in Chinese, what would you say?
In Chinese, it will be 心理咨询师 or 心理辅导员, which means counsellor, basically. Mental
right,
counselor.
okay. For something to do with your psychological well-being.
Yes.
And we do talk about counselling and psychological well-being. It's not about people who are crazy. It's not about people who are not well. It's about people who have a problem or an issue which is stopping them getting full benefits out of being a student. It's troubling them or causing them pressure. So we would say, go to the counselling service, and perhaps we'll be able to put a link on here somewhere. Go to the counselling service and ask to see somebody. That person is trained to ask questions, to make you think, to help you work your way through the situation. They won't tell you the answer is this. They won't tell you go and do that. But they will listen and they will help you come to a decision about how to solve the problem, or if it can't be solved, how to find strategies and strength to manage the problem, to live with the problem. This service is completely confidential. A counsellor is not allowed to tell me, even though I manage the boss of the counselling service, they will never tell me anything about a student unless the student asks them to. It is confidential. It doesn't go, no conversation goes on the student's record, and unless the student asks the counsellor to talk to somebody else in the university, then, except in very rare circumstances where the student might be in danger, they are not allowed by their professional body, they're not allowed to disclose any information.
Okay, so does this confidentiality also apply to, say, university health service, or when you talk to your tutor?
That's a good question, and the two things are slightly different. The University Health Service, which, as you know, is a specialist doctor's service. The doctors there are trained to deal with many different medical conditions, but they are national health doctors, and no doctor in the UK is allowed, again, according to their professional body, no doctor is allowed to discuss with somebody outside their medical circle any issue about a patient. So if I ask, again, I am the line manager for the head of the University Health Service, but if I ask her, did Wenhui come to the doctor last week, she won't tell me.
Right.
She's not allowed to tell me. She could get the sack, but she could stop being, they could take away her permission to be a doctor.
Okay.
So take away her licence,
Yes.
basically. So they will not tell me. Now, it's a good idea sometimes for a student to ask the University Health Service to write a note or to talk to their tutor, if the student wants them to explain why a health issue might be affecting a student's performance. The confidentiality there is a bit different, because the tutor, let's say for example, can I use you as an example?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say for example that you had a very bad chest infection and you were ill and you couldn't do your exam, or you did your exam but you really were not well.
Right.
Then your doctor, if you see the doctor when you're ill, not 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, but if you see the doctor and say, look, I have an exam and I'm very worried, then you can ask the doctor, will you write a note for my tutor? You can then take that note to your tutor. The tutor, that note is only written because you give permission. And the tutor will treat that confidentially, but that doesn't mean secretly in this case. In this case, the tutor will say, well, I will put this in your notes or on your record. That's not the computer record that I can see about you. It's a record in the office. Maybe only one other person will see the note. Maybe nobody else will see the note, because what the tutor will probably say is he will talk to the exams officer in the department and say, I have a medical note for Wenhui that says she was ill on this date. I've seen the letter. The exams officer will trust their colleague and say, okay, that's fine. There is a letter. It might be put in a file, sealed in an envelope, but the tutor will say, I have evidence, and that will be enough for the exams officer then to say, okay, I don't have to know the detail, or maybe only the exams officer will know. It's different in each department, but everybody else, all the other tutors, won't know. They will just know that there was a doctor's note to say you were ill on that day, and certainly none of the other students will be told.
Okay.
Nor will they tell your mum and dad, by the way. They're not allowed to contact your parents. Yeah.
Okay.